That was a bit of a run. Hey guys, welcome to another one of our live session. We definitely were not late. Definitely no rush whatsoever this morning. Absolutely ready on time, and yeah, we made it here. So that's good. All right. So welcome to one of our live session today. Here we're going to be talking about traveling in New Zealand because we kind of are the experts of traveling in New Zealand. But Laura, why are we the experts?
Well, this is Out of Breath Robin, and I'm Laura, and we're the team behind NZPocketGuide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide, because it literally has thousands and thousands of articles to help you plan the perfect trip to New Zealand. Of course, that mostly applies to people that can actually come to New Zealand, which is basically anyone that's already in the country. Because, yes, again, at the time of recording this live session, which it's now sort of late July 2021, the borders are still closed to most international visitors coming to New Zealand, I'm afraid. So unfortunately, although you can't come to the country at the moment, it's never too early to plan the perfect trip around the country. So that's what NZ Pocket Guide is for. So go head over to the website to get lots of free, good information about traveling in New Zealand. But if you're not really into reading, well, this is what this live Q&A session is all about for you guys. We do this every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. And if you want to know what time that is in your time zone, there is a handy link in the description below.
There is.
And yeah, so this session is for you guys to come onto the live chat and ask your New Zealand travel questions directly to us. But if you do miss the live session, we also look at the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we take questions from there and go through some of those questions during the live session as well, if we have time. And yeah,
who's out of breath now?
I'm fine.
All right, guys. So there's already a lot of you in the live chat, which is awesome. We have Anthony Comstock that says Morena. If you guys don't know what that means, Morena means good morning in Maori, which is the local indigenous language. And he says Morena from California. Where in California? Unknown. Okay.
Unknown.
He said, I may lose reception, so but I started out there. I will listen for as long as I can, though.
Ooh.
Where are you? What is
like
happening to Anthony today? Yeah. Cool. Where else do we have? So again, as usual, we read all the comments. So we have Lawrence Bright Entertainment. Ooh, that sounds like a production studio of epic movies. You know,
Yeah.
Lawrence Bright Entertainment Production presents. He says, "Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. In this wonderful platform." I'm gonna restart. I need to catch my breath. Good day, everyone on this wonderful platform. Please, I have a question to ask. Is ETA a visa? Is it eligible for some to travel with it down to New Zealand?
Okay, so ETA is...
It's not a visa.
Not a visa.
It's kind of it's something you have to buy in order to transit through New Zealand. What does the ETA stand for? Do you remember? Or Electronic Transit Authority. Yeah. So Electronic Transit Authority. So you basically pay to have the right to pass through New Zealand. It's a way for them to raise money in order to pay for tourism and everything like that. So it's something that you will have to have when flying into New Zealand. So that's on top of your visa. So if your country has to have a visitor visa to come to New Zealand, some countries don't need to. But if your country has to have a visitor visa for New Zealand, you still have to get yourself an ETA.
I don't think that's good.
No, it's not?
So, yeah, so from what I understand, it's like...
then answer the question.
Yeah. So, if you can come to New Zealand on a visitor visa, i.e. a visa that is like, if you're from a visa waiver country, which includes quite a lot of countries in the world that are popular places to come to New Zealand, and with your visitor, basically... if you're from a country where you can enter New Zealand and you don't physically have to apply for a visa, for instance, Robin and I, I'm from the UK and Robin's from France, and when we first came to New Zealand, and if we were just visiting, we would just have to enter the country with our passport, and we are eligible to come and visit New Zealand for up to 3 months in just by showing our passport. So that is what a visa waiver country is, basically. It's that you don't have to physically apply for a visa when you come here. And because we come from those countries and we don't actually have to pay for a visa to come here, we do have to pay the NZETA and the IVL, which is an extra thing on top of that, which is basically a visitor levy. And they're both things that you apply and pay for together using an app from Immigration New Zealand. So that applies to those types of visitors, the visitors that actually don't have to physically apply for a visa when they come to New Zealand. Now, people that do have to apply for a visa waiver country.
Yeah, you can just read that.
Okay.
It's there for you.
Yeah.
And it's on screen as well.
Yeah. So if you are coming to New Zealand and you've actually paid and applied for a type of visa, for instance, if you're not from a visa waiver country and you actually had to pay for a actual visitor visa, you had to go through a actual process to do that, or you have, for instance, paid for a type of work visa, like a working holiday visa or a student visa, for instance, then you don't actually need to pay for the NZETA or IVL because you've actually paid to have those visas, which is usually a lot more than it is to pay for an NZETA, for example. So that is the people that have to pay for the NZETA. We finally got there, but you can find some articles on nzpocketguide.com, which goes into detail and actually fully explains who needs to pay for it and who doesn't. So find that. Is that actually showing on the screen
right now? Yeah, it's on screen right now, yeah.
So yeah, Robin's showing it on screen right now. That's what you need to know about the New Zealand ETA and international visitor levy. We also have another article, which is like 10 things you need to know about the NZETA, which basically breaks up the article into even smaller chunks if you're still finding it quite hard to understand.
All right. So usually go for Laura when you want all the right things. I got a little confused right here. Okay, cool. So we also have Fabio, which is back today. How are you doing, Fabio? Fabio says Morena, and he says, Robin, don't forget to say, YouTube asks you to say there is... No, it doesn't just yet. So yes, sometimes YouTube put a little stuff on there saying, like, don't forget to tell people to subscribe, but not just yet. But I will promise I will tell you when YouTube puts a warning on my stupid screen. But yes, like and subscribe to the channel if you like the endless content of NZ Pocket Guide. That's what he says. That's awesome. Baby Burns NZ says, Kia ora, you guys. How are you doing today? Nathan Baith from Topo says, Kia ora. Good morning, Laura and Robin. And then we have Sam Sims that says, hi, guys. Miss you. Oh, that's nice. He says, I'm still confused. Is there New Zealand or Canada? Yeah, well, the one that's going to open earlier is going to be Canada. So if you are eager right now, you got to pick Canada. But if you want the epicness of New Zealand, you still have to wait. Yeah. Adil says, Kia ora, Robin and Laura. Awesome. Kia ora. Sam agrees with me. Is Electronic Travel Authority, says exactly Mr. Robin. And then after he says, you're right, Mrs. Laura. Ooh. If from a waiver country, you don't need a visa, just an ETA. But if you go there, you should go to visit Care Road. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting little advice.
So that's why I did put information on screen. I got a little confused, and because we don't like to give not clear information, I put straight away the information on screen, and I just let Laura kind of go over what we had on screen.
Yeah. And another thing about the NZETA, aren't the prices for it meant to be going up soon?
It's going to go up, but we're going to cover that when the borders reopen. Right now, it's
when it actually applies. Yeah.
Ekshim Talauta is here and says Morena. And Fabio says, my little sister is here in Vienna watching the live stream too. Hi, what's her name? We need to be able to say her name. What's her name? Rajshri Dimitri says, hi, what about returning student to New Zealand? A student in New Zealand but currently out of the country who wants to go back to resume their studies. Is there anything we can do? At the moment, it's a wait and see approach, mate. The New Zealand government has taken an approach of like zero tolerance on COVID. And so for this reason, they're going to take the most drastic decision. In fact, they even suspended the travel bubble between Australia and New Zealand for a further 8 weeks. And they literally announced that a couple of days ago. So, we had a travel bubble. There was a lot of procedures in place. There is a lot of economic ties between New Zealand and Australia, more than with any other country in the world. And they stopped it all instantly as soon as Australia had a few cases. So I think it's just going to be about wait and see. Taylor Dalgaish says, hello, I'm 19 years old and thinking about going over to New Zealand on a working visa. How much in pounds, just off the top of your head, how much will I need? Okay, so I'm assuming you're going to want to come on a working holiday visa, Taylor, because that's basically what most 19 years old will be doing. So that's a visa that will allow you, if you ask for pounds, I'm also assuming that you're from the UK. It's a lot of assumptions, so tell me if I'm right, Taylor. But is that will allow you to come to New Zealand for up to 24 more months to come and work and travel in the country. I'm going to assume that you're going to want to do only 1 year because that's what most people are doing. So you're from the UK, I'm assuming. You come on a working holiday, I'm assuming, and you come for 12 months, I'm assuming. So the minimum requirement is for you to have 4,500 New Zealand dollars. That's what would be the minimum requirement that they ask you to have. We always suggest people to have at least 5,500, and in fact, due to inflation right now, I will advise you to have between 6,000 to 6,500 New Zealand dollars. I'm sorry, I don't really know pounds so much.
The rough way to work out pounds is to just half the New Zealand dollars amount. So for 2,000 New Zealand dollars, just to work out roughly, it's about £1,000.
Okay, so I will say £3,000, but round it up to £3,500. That would be your absolute bare minimum. So that's what we say as the bare minimum in order to get you started a little bit when arriving in New Zealand before you are able to start a job and everything. But you are much better off saving much more and be able to actually have more time. We are dealing with a lot of backpackers coming to New Zealand. We give a lot of advice. There's a ton of advice on NZPocketGuide.com, and in fact, I'm going to show you some really good place for you to start with budget that will help you understand the cost of life in New Zealand. So if you go on nzpocketguide.com and you go on travel tips right here, and then travel advice, and then budget, and you're going to close that ad. Got to it. And here you have literally what is the cost of the working holiday in New Zealand, what is the cost of backpacking in New Zealand, right here with Laura's face on the photos. So for example, what is the cost of working holiday in New Zealand? Literally, that's going to be everything about planning your working holiday. So the cost of the visa, the working holiday programs, the cost of travel, commuting, the cost of phone network, and all that kind of things. And if I'm going back and I show you the cost of backpacking in New Zealand, now we're going to be talking about transportation, accommodation, and activities. So you'll be able to kind of work out a little bit what you think you're going to be spending, the cost you need to have. But I will really say at a bare minimum in pounds, according to Laura, divide by 2 system, it will be 3,000 to 3,500. But that will be cutting it as the bare minimum. I will absolutely come to New Zealand with more.
Maybe about £5,000 would be a good safety cushion, bearing in mind that you can obviously get started. If you are on the working holiday visa, you can get started with work, maybe two months into being in New Zealand, because we always recommend to travel around New Zealand first, actually experience the country before deciding where you want to sort of settle and do sort of the working part of your working holiday. That's much more fun to do it that way, and also make sure that you end up in a place that you actually want to spend a few months working in.
And we do have a lot of information on this YouTube channel. Like, let's say if you search on the YouTube channel, just type working holiday, and you'll find a huge playlist with a ton of information, or even just on the website. As I mentioned, we put our heart and soul on nzpocketguide.com. Here's the address. Boom, right here, and right here on screen.
Where is it? Where's the on-screen version?
You go. So check this one out. That's going to definitely help you out a lot, Taylor. But obviously, any other questions, feel free to ask. That's what we do every single live session. Baby Burns says, I have a challenge for you guys. Oh, no.
Oh.
How about a live Q&A from outdoors, such as Glenorchy or Hooker Valley Track? A less formal one, less of a in a less crowd cafe, maybe, while eating or having a cup of coffee, maybe. So the issue with that is that the mobile internet is not that reliable in New Zealand. So we've tried to do those kind of things. So we actually did one outdoor stuff once when we reviewed Wireless Nation, their modem. So we did a live review, live on YouTube, and it worked fine. But I don't know if that will work really fine for an entire time. But this is something that we talk regularly about. We're probably not going to do that in winter because, hell no.
At 8 a.m. New Zealand time, bright and early.
But we probably will attempt to do some of those in summer. We talked about it more and more often. So we may attempt to do one of those. now while having coffee or while eating or something like that, we think we like to have all our attention on you guys, so we always have something to drink with us and everything. But while eating, we don't want to have people munching and everything like that. So for while eating, I'm just gonna say flat no, because I don't think it's that polite. So that's just my opinion.
That's just rude.
Yeah. Okay. Where do we have? Clay says, morning all. Morning, Clay. How is it going in Dunedin? How cold are you today? Fabio says her name is Livia and she is kind of freaking out listening to the TV, hearing her name.
Hello, Livia.
Did you freak out?
Yeah.
You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. Baby Burns says, by the way, I will like this video already. Lesson learned from last week. Oh, that's nice.
Thank you, Baby Burns.
Lubos01 says, hi guys, I'm looking to go to New Zealand on a working holiday visa between Auckland and Christchurch. Which one would you recommend? And then after we have Taylor that says, would you say Willington is a great place to do a working holiday? Well, what about we talk about that? All right, so we have two questions. We're going to combine them together. Lubos1 and Taylor are asking, hi guys, I'm looking to go to New Zealand on a working holiday visa between Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. Which city would you recommend? Okay, so Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch are the three largest cities in New Zealand, so definitely an obvious place to start your working holiday visa. They also are three of the international entry points to New Zealand. So the vast majority of people, I don't have the real figure, but I'm thinking that at least 90% of international travelers arrive in Auckland. Then second will come Christchurch and third will come Wellington. So it's highly likely that you will save a lot of money by just arriving in Auckland and starting in Auckland. However, the city is pretty expensive. So let's talk about Auckland for a little bit. I'm going to start with the cons and Laura is going to go for the pros, right? And like that we can balance everything out. So again, there is a lot of pros and every city in New Zealand is amazing, but I just want you to have, good understanding of what you have. So the cons of Auckland, first, it's a very large city and it absolutely does not represent what New Zealand is all about. So if you come to New Zealand to have something different than what you have back home, well, Auckland is just going to be yet another big city. New Zealand is all about the outdoors and exploring the country. Auckland is, by far the most expensive city in New Zealand. So there is a lot of, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to save money. The cost of rent and the cost of life over there is just going to drain all your money, because usually you get, something, a kind of work at a minimum wage. The reason why you would get a work at the minimum wage is because there's much more workers, there's much more applicants for every single position than there are in other countries. In fact, there was a figure a few years back that was circulating around, like a New Zealand government or something like that. They were saying there is 11 times more applicants for each position in Auckland than there is any other places in the country. So therefore, if I am looking for a job, I'd rather apply to a job where there is 11 times less applicants somewhere else than in Auckland, in order to secure getting the job easier. And lastly, you have commuting. So Auckland is kind of vast. It's a big sprawling city. So you will have to kind of figure out the ways commuting between bus, not existing yet train network, which is half decent, and cars and everything. So living in a big city comes with a lot of drawbacks, but it does also come with a lot of advantages. So let's go over the advantages.
Okay, one advantage of Auckland out of all the cities that we're comparing, it tends to have the best weather, or at least the warmest weather. So if you're not really a fan of the cold, Auckland's a really good place to be. It has mild temperatures. Even in winter, you don't really, all you need is a light jacket and you're fine. A lot of the accommodation, like apartments there, don't even have heating because it's not even necessary. It's just like it's a good climate up there, so that's an important factor for some people. Another thing, although Robin says that it's not a representation of New Zealand and doing outdoorsy activities, there are certainly day trips that you could be doing to go and visit some pretty cool places.
And it's still one of the most livable cities in the world. It's ranked in like the Time magazine and those kind of things regularly for that. So it's not a terrible city by no stretch.
Yeah. So it's a cool place to base yourself if you want to go and visit some cool places around. For instance, just offshore from Auckland are a ton of different islands that you can take the ferry to. There's Rangitoto Island, which is like a 600-year-old volcano with lava fields and caves. There's Tiri Matangi, which has a bird wildlife sort of sanctuary on there as well. And then you can also take weekend trips, for instance, to Rotorua, which is a popular hotspot nearby. There's Tauranga, sort of 2 hours away. There's the Coromandel. So there's a lot of different places that you can go and visit.
And you also get a lot of party and eating out and shopping. Obviously, you're going to get plenty in Auckland. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's kind of for Auckland. Pros and cons, we've done that. So let's talk about Wellington right now. So Wellington is New Zealand's largest city. New Zealand's capital city, my bad, not New Zealand's largest city. It is located at the bottom of the North Island. Woo! And sorry about that. So it's located at the bottom of the North Island, and it's kind of like a really cool little capital. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you the kind of cons of living in Wellington, and Laura is going to give you the pros of living in Wellington. So one of the cons is that you're probably not going to arrive there. So when you're going to hit the road when you're going to hit New Zealand on a working holiday visa, you are highly likely, as I say, to arrive in Auckland or to arrive in Christchurch. So you will have to make your way all the way down to Wellington. It's a cons because, that incurs costs to make your way all the way down to Wellington, but it could be a pro because it forces you to travel a little bit around New Zealand first, which is the best way to start your working holiday visa. Another cons of living in Wellington is the weather. It's extremely windy. It's one of the windiest cities in the world. And it's a bit annoying, but I think it's fine. Another cons is traffic. It's extremely congested. The town has been built even smaller than Auckland, so there is really, really a lot of traffic. And they're currently working on making the city center even more car adverse, so basically removing more cars and get more pedestrian area, which I personally really like, but I don't think that's really going to help too much with the traffic situation. And the last con is that there is a little bit less job on offer in Wellington because there is less people living here. But on the other hand, there is less people applying for it, so that kind of balances itself out as well. And one more coin, the cost of life in Wellington is also quite high. Actually, some of the rent costs are on par or sometimes even higher than Auckland.
Yeah.
What are the pros of living in Wellington on the working holiday visa?
So a lot of people so the type of people that really love city life tend to really love Wellington because it's a lot more sort of cultured than other cities around New Zealand. For instance, they have really good sort of live shows there. They have, there's a lot of different arts and sort of theatre happening and
comedy clubs,
and they have live sessions happening in the Botanic Gardens every summer, for instance. So, there's a lot of stuff and events going on there that just makes it a really appealing city for people that really love sort of urban life. And cafes are really decent, eateries are really good, all that sort of thing. Nightlife is really vibrant as well. So if city life is your thing, then people tend to really love Wellington, especially for that. So and like Auckland, there are day trips that you can be taking from Wellington, although I feel like Wellington is a little less, it's a little harder to get to some places from Wellington, but there's lots of really cool options in the surrounding region to go do some fun day trips.
Yeah, and the average wage is a little higher in Wellington for some reason. So there you go. All right, and so last on our list will be Christchurch. So Christchurch is located on the South Island. It's actually the only South Island cities we're going to be talking about, in this answer. And it's a vast, sporting cities and everything like that. Really big and a lot of things to do around and a great gateway for the South Island. So I'm going to do the cons, same thing, and Laura is going to do the pros of doing a working holiday in Christchurch or basing yourself a little bit on a working holiday in Christchurch. Okay, so one of the cons for living in Christchurch is, in Christchurch, you will need your own car. You absolutely will need your own car in order to be able to get out and do some things and kind of explore the city. It's bigger, the bus network's not that great, so you will need to invest in getting your own second-hand car. Or you can buy a brand new car. I mean, I'm not stopping you, but I feel like if you're on a working holiday, you probably wouldn't. Okay, so that's one of the cons. The next cons, and I'm going to debunk it straight away, it's the earthquake. So a lot of people are really scared about living in Christchurch because it's famous for its one big earthquake that it had. But most of the city, first the earthquake had very minimal casualty. Most of the city is earthquake prone now. There is a lot of kind of good way to mitigate that. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. The other con is that it's a little bit less of a party and city vibe kind of town, right? So in Auckland, you have like some areas like K Road and Ponsonby, and even on the viaduct where you can go and you can party and everything like that. It's a bit harder to find kind of those places in Auckland, so in Christchurch. So keep that in mind, that it's a little bit less. You're more going to find a group of friends and kind of do more hanging out more than kind of going out and partying. That's kind of one of the things to keep in mind. But the food scene in Christchurch is actually quite on par now, so it's quite good, and it's there's a lot outside. So yeah, one of the other things as well is that I feel like your entertainment in Christchurch is going to be more usually a 1 to 2 hour drive away. It's not necessarily like kind of like you go and you will have everything you want around yourself. You're more going to go out and go to the Kaikoura, to the Southern Alps, to the Akara, so you're more going to get out.
It's actually like a minimum of 2 hours drive to get to like the highlights around.
Exactly. Yeah. And the last thing is the accessibility. Just sending that I say to about Wellington. I think that most people will arrive in Auckland, so that means you have to make your way all down to Christchurch. But there is a lot of pros for living in Christchurch. So let's go over that.
So first pro is that it's a cheaper city to live in compared to Wellington and Auckland. So if you're looking to actually save money while you're working and also have access to a lot of different types of jobs that you would normally find in a city, then Christchurch tends to be a lot more affordable. Another pro is that while you're on the South Island, and if the appeals of the South Island, such as the scenery and more scenery, is kind of what you're really into,
then a bit more scenery.
And a bit more scenery, then you're in Christchurch, and that's a good base to do at least weekend trips, because like Robin says, it's still like a couple of hours to actually get to sort of some of the highlights of the South Island. But if you are, if you're based there and you have long weekends off work, for instance, then you can go and do some really amazing road trips to some beautiful places around. Well, we can't list them all off right now because it's not really enough time. But if you go on nzpocketguide.com, we have lots of articles like day trips and weekend trips from Christchurch. So go check those out. But yeah, basically, if you dig wanting to be in the South Island, then Christchurch is obviously a better option to go for than Auckland and Wellington.
Did you talk about ease of job and the low cost and the wages or no?
I talked about that it's more affordable in jobs in a nutshell.
Cool, nice. Okay, so that's really the highlight. So if I had to choose a place for me to start my working holiday in New Zealand, I would absolutely choose Christchurch for sure, just because it will be such a much better experience in starting. First, you have access to the whole South Island. Second, you're going to be able to save more money and you're going to be able to do more. But that's only one man's opinion. Laura, which one would you choose?
I would choose probably Wellington, just to be different.
You just like your coffee.
Yeah.
Great coffee scene in Willington. All right, if you did find this video useful, if you find the answer to all your questions useful, make sure to hit like. It's a great free way for you guys to say thank you for all our hard work. And make sure to visit nzpocketguide.com. It's the largest travel guide to New Zealand. It's done by Laura and there is thousands of articles for you to be able to plan your working holiday in New Zealand with ease. Let's go back to the live chat. Where are we at? So we talked about that for a little too long, but I hope that that was okay. We had Fabio that says, Robin, if nobody asks, any updates on when the New Zealand borders reopens again? Nobody has asked yet, so I'm not going to say anything. But our predictions video is linked in the description of this video. So here you go if anyone wanted to ask that. Anthony Comstock says, Morena, I'm able to listen. Yay! Baby face. Ooh. This is Kiara. How are you doing, Babyface? Rashri Dimitri says, thank you for responding. Could you please tell us there is good news for students or for us to stay hopeful? As we are all quite stressed for our education, we are in the midst of our nursing degree. That message was from stressed out students. Thanks again. Well, I'd like to tell you that there is good news, mate, but we don't like to lie to people or make up information, right? There is no news, and for this reason, I can't tell you there is good news.
Yeah.
No news. To be fair, no news is good news. That just means that they're not adding more restrictions or anything like that, and they're working toward it. So the one thing to stay hopeful for and to look forward to is that in August, at some point within August, and it's politicians, so it's going to be in the last 3 days of August. So don't think on the 1st of August you're going to get an announcement, but within the next last 3 days of August, for instance, we will get an announcement from the New Zealand government, which is going to start explaining their roadmap or their path forward on how they're going to plan to reopen the border. So we will start seeing all that. Now, this announcement will be followed by a public consultation, which means that people will be able to kind of, have an input in all that and see, if they're happy with it or not. I don't think there's going to be a vote, but at least they're going to let people put submissions and everything. So it will be a long, drawn-out process, and nothing is going to reopen before 2022. That's pretty much sure. But we know that we're going to actually get some answers or some beginning of answers in August. So that's the one thing to be hopeful for. If you do want more information about that, well, stay around. We are going to be doing a round of news, and there is a couple of news. There is some news for students, but it's to say that there's no news for students. But that's what the news is.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler for the news. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that's the one thing I can tell you. Listen, we're not here to do fake news or anything like that. So if there is no good news, if there's no news, we're just not going to give you news, and I'm sorry about that. But stay around. As soon as there is some, we will give you some news. Yes. So, keep watching our videos regularly. Sorry, I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's the honest truth. And I will always prioritize honesty rather than, what you guys want to hear. Sorry. Lawrence, Bright Entertainment say, okay, I am sorry I didn't introduce myself very well. Actually, I'm from Nigeria, and right now I have an ETA visa with me now. Good. Well, so from Nigeria, you are not from the visitor waiver country, so you do need an ETA to come and visit New Zealand. So, yeah, good. It's just visit, though. That's not going to allow you to work or do anything else in New Zealand. It's just a bit of a holiday. Mm-hmm. Fabio says, just one comment to good climate condition in Auckland. We had 3 days of 5 degrees Celsius in autumn 2016. Well, yeah.
And that's considered cold.
Yeah. Right now it's 0 outside where we are, so you boo-hoo.
Yeah.
That felt very sassy. Robert Lalibert is here, by the way. So Robert is the guy that sent us a bunch of news that we're gonna be reading in a few minutes. We just keep on answering your questions first. So Robert say, some time back there was a discussion about deals buying stuff from tourists returning home. One of the regulars, I can't remember which one, made out pretty good. I'm looking for a GPS with an NZ map, or just a map alone. Garmin wants 224 and TomTom 75 just for maps. There are bootleg ones out there. I don't trust them. Any ideas? No, it sounds no. $224 or $75 for just map. On the apps, they're cheaper. Download the apps on your phone, the Garmin or the TomTom map app on your phone, and then the map itself are way cheaper than that. Yeah, no, that sounds outrageously expensive. Yeah, keep looking. That's my tip.
Yeah, any ideas? Keep looking, yes.
A GPS with a New Zealand map. Yeah, you can. So if you have the Garmin or the TomTom apps on your phone, you can just download like map bundles and everything. They don't want $75 for it. I don't have this app anymore on this phone because I changed phone. But I will have a look out for you, Robert. I won't look right now, but that sounds obviously. And you're right.
That's outrageous.
Exactly. Yeah. So you are right. No, $224, $75 is incredibly expensive.
I'd rather get a paper map from the eyesight at this rate for $2 and try and figure my way out that way.
Yes, Laura will never get anywhere, but that's okay. Yeah, no, that's crazy expensive.
Do it old school.
Let me do some research this week, Robert. I'll re-download those apps and I'll check their offerings. Lawrence Bright Entertainment says, I really need a way forward now. I'm really confused concerning the explanation you gave me a few minutes ago. What do you mean? So an ETA visa allows you to enter the country, but just traveling as a tourist. You can't just come to New Zealand with random visas and come and work. You have to listen. The way you can go forward right now is to contact Immigration New Zealand and tell them exactly what you come to New Zealand to do, and they will tell you exactly what type of visa you can apply for.
Yeah,
that's the only way forward. Just to make it very, very clear. Clay says, all good here. The sun's out in Dunedin, so better not complain. I forgot to mention last week that Charlie Brown in Wanaka. He went to Charlie Brown for getting some crepes in Wanaka, and he said they loved it. Nice. I'm happy you took our recommendation and you enjoyed it. Said Then after he's talking about Christchurch, I guess, and he says, I'd be more nervous about the Alpine Fault. That's a few hundred years overdue rather than Christchurch having another one. I 100% agree with you. Taylor says, thank you for responding. Just one more. Would you say New Plymouth is a great place to work or live? Yes, New Plymouth is a really fantastic place to work and live. And in fact, if I had to choose between Auckland, Christchurch, Wellington, and New Plymouth, I think I would pick New Plymouth.
I would go for New Plymouth as well. Yeah,
so here you go.
It's really cool. You're nearby some really awesome places. It's also, you've got the Mount Taranaki nearby, but also lots of really awesome beaches. And on top of that, the city itself is actually quite off the beaten track. It's not too crowded or, crazy as some of the other cities you just mentioned are. And I don't know numbers exactly, but I think that it would be actually cheaper to live in New Plymouth
for sure.
Well.
100%, yeah. Taylor is really into their working holiday right here. I like it. You definitely sound like you need to check out nzpocketguide.com, do some reading, and also check out more of our working holiday playlist on the website. Because most of the question you ask, we actually have like a 10 and 15 minute answer by each of those points for you. But yeah, so Taylor says, is it better to bring cash on your working holiday visa so you can open a New Zealand bank account when you arrive? It's good to have some cash with you, but then you can use something like Wise, which allows you to do transfer for very cheap between the UK and New Zealand. So yeah, we do have all explanation on how to open a bank account, how to transfer money between bank accounts and everything like that on nzpocketguide.com. So yeah, but yeah, you bring about half in cash and half, you do a bank transfer. And then you ask how much New Zealand dollar can you bring before you have to declare it. Don't quote me for it, but I think it's 10,000 New Zealand dollars. So it's all in New Zealand dollars.
Yeah. But for safety reasons, you also don't want to bring all your cash with you to New Zealand.
Like 3-4 grand or more.
Yeah, but even so, I'd say just even a couple of grand would, just enough to sort of see you through have a safety cushion for your first 2 weeks in New Zealand. And then by that point, you will have had your bank account opened and your money transferred over. So just have yourself a safety cushion for when you initially come to New Zealand, but don't bring all your cash just in case, something crazy might happen. Like, not that it is going to happen, but luggage can get lost or someone might rob you. Not that these things happen, but you don't really want to just put all your cash in the same place and then something happened to it.
New Zealand is pretty safe.
Yeah.
And they say, thank you, I will stop asking now. You don't have to stop asking now.
That's what this is for.
Yeah, that's what this is for. I was just telling you, if you want even more, just soak in all the information that we have already put out there. But yeah, you absolutely don't have to stop asking. Fabio says, have you ever been to the summit of Mount Taranaki? No, we've been not to the summit just yet, but that is in the plans.
Yes, it's something that you can do mostly in summer because there's snow on the peaks, for most of the year, basically. So yeah, it's something that we've been around it and done a lot of hikes in the Egmont National Park, but the summit is kind of the summit's really cool to look at, but so far we have not been compelled to go all the way up.
All right. Lawrence Bright at the moment say, okay, it's all right, but if I may ask you, how can I contact Immigration New Zealand? I gave you the address right here in the live chat for you. Just have to copy and paste that on Google and you'll find them straight away. Easy as. All right, guys, so while you keep on coming up with even more questions, or while Taylor keeps on going under their checklist for their working holiday visa, we're going to go over the New Zealand travel news brought to you by Robert Laliberte. So anyway, Robert is a guy that's come and watch our live session all the time, and he's really into the travel news in New Zealand. So he now kind of copy and paste a few information and a few news which are quite important, are kind of really topical, and we go over them right now. So I'm going to start with a bit of a jingle. New Zealand news. And the first news that we're going to cover is the fact that New Zealand travel bubble with Australia has been suspended for 8 weeks. So New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced that a couple of days ago, and basically the travel bubble between New Zealand and Australia was canned because there was a lot of extra cases in Australia, and New Zealand did not want to take the risk. So for this reason, we are going to be we're going to have our borders closed until at least the end of September 2021. So that's probably one of the biggest piece of news this week. So I want to cover that quickly. The second, one of the biggest piece of news is that Laura and I are now fully vaccinated. We got our second dose of the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19, and we don't have too many side effects, except a very strong feeling of telling you guys that it's very important to update to Windows 10. And also, when I close my eyes, I hear the starting sound of Windows XP. So I don't know, but you know. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. There is no mind control from Bill Gates if you get a vaccine. Anyway, let's go on to the real news.
Okay, so we have some news from Stuff, which is a New Zealand news outlet online. So this is from July the 6th, 2021, and the headline is COVID-19. New Zealand is watching Canada's border reopening closely, Jacinda Ardern says. So Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says she's keeping a very close eye on border restrictions being lifted in Canada and whether a similar easing could be applied to New Zealand. This week, Canada made the first step in reopening its borders, allowing vaccinated Canadians and permanent residents to skip the 14-day quarantine when entering the country. To be eligible for the exemption, travellers must have a full course of an approved vaccine and present a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours of travel. Travellers will also be tested on arrival, although they can go home to await results. Ardern says that she is watching Canada's phased opening, among others, closely. She's particularly interested in what impact it will have on community transmission. Almost everyone at some point is undertaking something that is experimental for the rest of the world, and this gives us the opportunity to look at what those experiments produce and the outcomes of that. Asked if New Zealand could follow Canada's lead, Ardern replied, "Whilst we have not put a timeline on it, we've always said that we want to look at the evidence of how vaccine reduces transmission and use that as a way that we can safely look to vary up what we are doing."
Okay, so basically, this is the same kind of news that we've already covered with New Zealand when we were talking about the vaccine rollout. New Zealand really is in a good situation to take a wait and see approach. So in short, we're going to wait and see what other countries are doing and learn from their successes and their mistakes and then implement that in New Zealand. This is why New Zealand's COVID-19 vaccine rollout is so slow, because we started well after a lot of other countries because, well, the wait and see approach. May as well learn from what other countries which absolutely have to have the vaccines and to roll it out as fast as possible are doing, while in New Zealand, we can wait and see a little bit. So the same system is probably going to be implemented for the border opening, where New Zealand is going to watch what Canada is going to be doing, what a couple of other countries are going to be doing, and then they're going to be deciding, okay, well, we're going to pick that method and that method. We can combine them together because they're the both that works the best, and we're going to do what New Zealand does best, which is copying, make it our own, and be like, ta-da, this is our system, and that's why we're great. So that's probably what's going to happen in that stage. So that's why when you guys are asking us a lot about the border opening predictions, we have only like fuzzy predictions right now, just because we know that they're going to take a lot of time to make decisions just yet.
Yeah.
All right, next news.
Next news is from the Pi News. And for those of you that don't know, that is news and business analysis for professionals in international education.
Pi,
yes. So this is from July 19th, 2021. And the headline is, "No changes to New Zealand borders for international students." There have been no major amendments to the current plans in allowing international students to enter New Zealand again, according to the country's Minister of Education, who spoke at the annually held International Education Forum 2021 in Auckland on July 12th. Earlier in the year, the New Zealand government approved for an exception class for 1,000 international tertiary students who began their study in New Zealand but were caught offshore when the border restrictions began. Our top priority continues to be the health, safety, and well-being of all people in New Zealand, Education Minister Chris Hipkins said. The students will return to New Zealand in phases, beginning with a cohort of 300 that will be able to return from April, with the remaining students returning throughout the year as managed isolation and quarantine availability allows. However, more than half a year into the recovery plan, only 135 students out of the planned 1,000 were allowed into the country. This is largely attributed to the drawn-out application process, lack of spots in New Zealand's MIQ, that's the Managed Isolation and Quarantine facilities, and confusion when it came to eligibility.
So yeah, one of the things that has been happening is that, despite the fact that the New Zealand government has announced that there is a lot of students that can come, 1,000, I mean, it's not a lot, but it is a large number. They still have added a lot of processes. There was also some issues with communication with Immigration New Zealand to get the proper visas and everything like that. So that's also one of the other things that we're going to be talking about when we're going to be talking about the border openings. Because yes, you can say the borders are open, but if behind the processes of being able to give visas or allocate, insurance and all those kind of things is not going to be working fine and working smoothly behind the scenes, then that will mean that people won't still be able to come into New Zealand. So it's not going to be just deciding when the borders open. It's deciding when the borders open and also giving enough ahead time to Immigration New Zealand to give visas to people that want to come to study in New Zealand. So there is much more than one thing in place, and that's why the situation is so kind of uncertain at the moment.
All right.
Okay, last boring COVID news, and then after we move on to the fun news.
Okay. So yes, this is from the NZ Herald and published on 18th of July 2021, and the headline is COVID-19 coronavirus. Largest shipment of Pfizer vaccines arrive in New Zealand. The largest single shipment of COVID-19 vaccines to date has arrived in New Zealand, allowing the rollout to begin to ramp up after slowing over the past month. COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins said the shipment of more than 370,000 doses arrived on Sunday, 2 days ahead of schedule. The last shipment of 150,000 doses arrived 2 weeks ago, also 2 days earlier than planned, and as the country's supplies draw close to zero. The rollout has been averaging between 100,000 to 120,000 doses a week since the end of May, restricted by the amount of doses arriving into the country.
So there is some good and some bad right here, but the main good news that we're going to focus on is the fact that we are running out of supply, meaning a lot of people are taking up the vaccines, meaning the rollout is actually going quite well, and we're not having like leftover stocks because people are against the vaccine. So the vaccination is going well in New Zealand, and once we reach herd immunity, there is more chances for travelers to come back to New Zealand. All right, let's move on to the fun news.
Okay, another one from the NZ Herald. So this is headlined, NZ's most dangerous road, Central Otago, takes the crown again. So an infamous Central Otago road has again taken the title of the country's most dangerous road, according to an Australian survey. Skipper's Canyon Road may not feature on many lists of fatal crashes, but it is a white-knuckle ride that many would not forget. It's likely the reason for its inclusion in Australian insurer Budget Direct's latest global survey of the world's most dangerous roads.
All right, so they do the world's most dangerous road every single year. And yeah, the one for New Zealand is Skipper's Canyon Road. You can check out a video of us driving on there. The only time you're ever going to encounter Skipper's Canyon Road is when you go do a jet boat or rafting trip down there.
I'll go with Nomad Safari.
Yeah, I'll go with Nomad Safari. So we went 3 times, We have 3 videos of us doing that road. So yeah, so check it out. It is kind of a scary road. It's a butt clencher, as we say.
All right, our last one from NZ Herald. This was published on the 22nd of July 2021, and the headline is Christchurch and Northland honoured in Time Magazine's 100 Greatest Places.
Yay!
So, 2 New Zealand destinations on opposite sides of the country have been included in Time Magazine's 100 Greatest Places 2021. In a list including New York City and the Athens Acropolis, Otautahi, Christchurch and the region of Tai Tokerau, Northland earned mentions as leading world destinations for very different but worthy reasons. Christchurch, the rebuilt city, was honoured by an American publisher for undergoing a 10-year transformation following the devastating 2011 quakes. Time's Ali Wunderman praised the Te Arua Maori Pa in Kerikeri and the storied scenery of Hokianga Harbour. The exhibition Mania Footprints of Kupe was sure to delight as it retold the story of the hero's arrival in New Zealand for a new generation.
So yeah, 2 places which we often talk about. We do really like Northland. We do really like Christchurch. So yeah, it's also what I really like in fact that they didn't pick something too touristy or too on the nose, such as Christchurch, such as Queenstown, for example.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty cool choice. So good job, Times Magazine. You get our stamp of approval if you needed it. All right, that's basically it for the news. Thank you again to Robert for sending us all those little new stuff. And yeah, if you guys do like those little news stuff, make sure you tell us. I'm putting a poll right now.
Oh yes, we almost forgot our weekly poll. In the meantime, maybe I can read some more questions from you guys in the live chat. So we got another question from Taylor saying, what was your best experience in New Zealand so far? Ooh, that's a tough one. We have done quite a lot in New Zealand. If you haven't checked on the channel already, we did a year where we did 365 days of 365 activities all around New Zealand. So yeah, we have done quite a lot in New Zealand. And when people do ask us this question, admittedly, it tends to change quite a lot. It's whatever basically comes to mind that day. But I think for me, I'm going to go for seal swimming in Kaikoura. Robin usually goes for that one, so I'm going to force him to pick for something else. So seal swimming in Kaikoura. So Kaikoura is on the South Island, and it's really famous for its maritime wildlife, mostly famous for watching whales and doing dolphin swimming. But something that was quite surprising for us was swimming with seals. We actually found that the interactions with doing seal swimming was really it was just really interactive. The seals were really playful, and that was really different to, for instance, dolphin swimming or, obviously watching whales from afar. So yeah, that was a really cool experience. We would recommend to anyone, and it's not actually as expensive as some of the other activities in the area as well.
Speaking of expensive activities, I think I'm going to be picking skydiving above Franz Josef Glacier. There is a company called Skydive Friends, and you can see us doing that activity. And you can skydive from there. What I really enjoy is the fact that, for the price of that skydive, you get a beautiful scenic flight around the Southern Alps. You see all the glacier, you see all that. And the skydive is really long, and the team is really fun. And and some of the photos, it's one of my favorite photos of me, actually. That photo when I just kind of skydive like that, and there's just all the Southern Alps over there, and I'm just coming from the top.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite photos of myself that I've ever had. So I really do enjoy this one. So I'm going to pick this one for today. So here you go, skydiving above Franz Josef Glacier.
Ask us the same question next week, and we'll probably come up with a different answer. But
exactly.
They're always really cool things to do, whatever we pick.
But yeah, check out New Zealand's Biggest Gap here. If you're bored right now and planning a trip to New Zealand, just start watching it. You get 400 videos, and you'll be annoyed by us after 3, but you'll be good. If you watch from number 1, there's a full playlist, right? If you watch from number 1 and you pass Hobbiton, that just means that you're not too annoyed by us. Cool. What do we have else? Lawrence Bright Entertainment says, thanks a lot. I so much appreciate.
You're welcome.
My pleasure. Very happy to help. Taylor is still back and says, when is that little tune going to be released on Spotify? Oh, well, I mean, I'm the new Kanye.
Yeah.
There you go.
We need to get like a little bit more, I think, production value for our news roundup. We need to have some like beaming lights coming into the middle. We need to have like an actual fully composed jingle. I mean, there's still some improvement to be made for our news roundup, but
don't let her keep going.
We'll see. We'll see how much money we make. And
all right, so Clay says we need to make a stop.
Any money that we do ever make in our lives, we'll probably put it into this news jingle, just so you know.
Oh yeah, for the 60 cents that a live session usually makes. All right. Taylor says, Clay says, time side business, making news jingle. Yep, well, okay, I will make news jingle from now on. That's my new job. Here you go.
There you go.
Fabio says, Laura, we want to hear your news jingle too. All right.
Okay, so imagine I have an orchestra.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Oh. Dun 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 dun.
Welcome to the news with Robin and Laura. Wow, I felt like I was there.
Yeah,
that was amazing. That was amazing. Okay, Clay says, finally a new story about a ship with a major load of one product that was illegal. Yep, well, yeah, that wasn't, those kind of news were not New Zealand news, so I don't report them. Here you go. Haven Smith says, how did you guys meet? While traveling New Zealand, of course. How else? I mean, that's the only fitting way to meet, isn't it?
I know. Everything we do is in New Zealand. We have no other life.